All right, everybody, welcome to the Elite Podcast. My name is Jason. I got a very special guest with us today. A man I truly admire for just everything he's done in his career and who he is. He's one of the most knowledgeable doctors I know in the field today on addiction. When I have a question or I'm kind of stumped on something, this would definitely be the guy I would call at any given time to uh, run that question down to me. He's changed my personal thinking on addiction in so many different ways. At one time, I was so against any kind of maintenance program for anybody. I was like, let's just get them off and then let's just get them the help. And then after talking to Dr. K multiple times on that part, he's helped me change my perspective on some stuff. Not only that, but I remember one time you told me, Doctor, you told me when we were talking about it, and it really struck hard with me. You told me you don't got to look them in, you don't got to look the mom or the dad in the eye after they die. I do. You know what I mean? And how many times have you? I think you said something. It was along the lines of, "I've had to have those conversations with the family after they've died and left here." And that hurt, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I remember those conversations too. So I kind of was able to sympathize with you and on that, you know what I mean? Or empathize with you on that. But the everybody knows him, or everybody that I know that knows him by the Detox Doc. He's even got his license plate here now. He used to have it on his Porsche, the Detox Doc. And he's worked for one of my companies at one time, and I've just been able to respect this guy tremendously. And not only that, it's just I know the work he's done in the field and the people he's helped. One of my really good friends, which will be on here, uh, he detoxed them and he went through their program, Calvary, multiple times, and uh, he got it with them finally. So with that, we'll let you get started. Go ahead, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name's Dr. Alan Case, and most recently in my career, I was practicing addiction medicine. And one caveat about how I got into addiction medicine is I was an emergency doctor for the first part of my career, and I personally went into treatment in 1983. And my partners were savvy enough to pick up on me that something was different about me. So they did a urine test and it was positive. And I readily admitted, I said, yeah, I have a problem. So I went through treatment in 1983 for 5 months in Atlanta, Georgia. And when I got down there were 60 health professionals down there. Most of them were physicians, and every specialty, neurosurgery, child psychiatry, ophthalmology, you name it, and they were there. And I had more not obvious, but more subtle problems with the drugs. So I knew I needed some help. So I stayed there for 5 months and returned back to emergency medicine. And then I figured, who's going to hire a drug addicted doctor? I was really worried about that, but things went smoothly. And I said to myself, I'm going to start teaching. I'm going to be an advocate for addiction medicine, and I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed to tell people that I've had a problem with it, and I went for treatments. So I thought I'd be a proponent and an advocate and a teacher of addiction. So slowly I worked my way in. I did emergency medicine for a total of 35 years. And in my mid-career, I started doing addiction medicine, and I slowly transitioned doing full-time addiction medicine. In the last 30 years, I've detoxed well over 15,000 people. And every place I went, every different facility I went, I was always busy, and the reputation came that Dr. Kazin does a good detox. And I was an advocate for the patients. I said, I'm one of you guys, I'm family. So a lot of patients like that, and they could relate, and they listen to you a little bit better. But then I started saying I'm going to be in the teaching capacity. So I called the head of psychiatry of a couple hospital systems in Phoenix, and I said, I'd like to teach your psychiatry residents addiction medicine. And it slowly got off the ground. And for 10 years, I taught fourth year psychiatry residents addiction. They would stay with me for 3 months. And the place I was at then, we had 18 detox beds and 50 residential beds, along with PHP. So we were very, very busy. So the full day I mentored with them, and it was a great experience. I also started teaching University of Arizona Phoenix Medical School, the first year students. I would bring a panel of 3 people who were recovering, and they would talk about how addiction got them bottomed out and how they got into recovery and their thoughts, and it was really well received. And then I started teaching Creighton Medical School, the medical school about substance abuse. So I became an avid teacher of addiction. I loved what I did. I was very, very busy, and I was I just was able. My disability became an asset, actually, and I never wanted to be an addict, but I accepted it, and I was, as I said, part of the addiction community.
That's awesome. What have you? I mean, we were just talking about it. I want to get it on the little bit of the camera. What have you seen change over since you started this? What when you first started in the detox area, or when you first started in addiction medicine? How have you seen it change? Because the last 5 years of addiction detox, in my eyes, have like we're losing them faster than we could save them right now.
Right.
Go ahead. Sorry.
The biggest change in treatment has been in opiates. The fentanyl crisis was unbelievable. There was so much, and fentanyl initially it would cost $25 for a tab of fentanyl, and after it caught on, when I towards the end, it was people were paying $1 a tab for fentanyl. The difference between heroin, with heroin, we didn't see that many people die because no one would do like 2 grams of heroin on day one. They just wouldn't do that. They would do small incremental doses. And usually there's a teacher who teaches them how to use heroin. I mean, as far as quantity and things like that. With fentanyl is 50 times as potent, more potent than heroin, and a lot of people were dying. They weren't opiate savvy. They would take 1 pill, and it would cause respiratory depression, and they would die.
I just not to cut you off. I just talked with the mom last week, and her daughter went to a party in college 4 years ago or 5 years ago, and never had any drug, substance abuse use, anything in her whole life. And it just took somebody said, "Here, take this pill." And one of her friends said, "Here, they gave us these pills. You want to try one?" And like that, the girl died that night.
Yeah,
That's how fast it's killing people, right?
yeah. It's unbelievable. I literally know hundreds of people who died from fentanyl, and just because of the potency. Now, you know, with opiates, we wouldn't really recommend maintenance that often. There was methadone maintenance for many, many years, and that works fine for people who are addicted to opiates. But methadone clinics in the past, you'd have to go there every day, and usually like 5 in the morning. And methadone surely works, but we didn't refer a lot of people to those clinics. It's basically the people who really wanted to be sober and knew they can't do it any other way. They would get on methadone. The reason why we changed that, because so many people were dying from fentanyl, it was unpredictable. So in order to save their lives and kind of bridge that gap between being bottomed out and getting sober, if you give them a medicine called buprenorphine, it's a good bridge, and some people want to do that continuously, but it was at that time it was much more popular, and it was reasonable because number one, you're going to save their lives. Number two, if they're on maintenance, they'll have less urge to use, and they'll have less criminal activity, less chance of getting hepatitis C or AIDS, less chance of getting arrested. So buprenorphine was really boomeranged at the
It
time.
was I like how you said the hepatitis and the AIDS and everything else.
Yeah.
One of the things you brought to our program that we still have in play in all of our programs that you worked for with is you started tracking the people that came in with. You started doing the blood work and everything on them to check what they had, and then if they had something, we were able to start getting them set up for the cures and the treatment. I can't tell you how many people that we've got on for the hepatitis, right?
Right.
That hepatitis is a slow death in my eyes. It'll kill you. I mean, you could share about it a little bit more, but it'll kill you from everything I know about it. It'll kill you, but it kills you silently, and it kills you over 20 years, or it destroys your liver to the point where you're going to have serious problems one day from it. When there's a cure that takes, I think, 90 days. I think it's Maverick, or there's a bunch of them. We've gotten them on Harvano or whatever, a couple of them, and they can get cured from it. So in 20 years, they're not going to die from the hep C.
I was amazed. I moved from Phoenix to Prescott, and I worked for a year in an outpatient facility, and I tracked everyone. I would get a hepatitis C antibody on everyone, and 30% of the patients in that facility, all through the year, were positive for hepatitis C. Now, hepatitis C has a treatment. It has a 98% cure rate, so it's easily treated. But if you leave it go for years, it's going to slowly ruin the liver, and you end up with hepatic failure and cirrhosis.
Yep.
But 30% of the patients were positive for hepatitis C, and you don't have symptoms. They don't have symptoms, so unless they do something, as I said, it's going to slowly destroy the liver.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, ever since then, we've been keeping track on everything that you put in play with us and making sure that everybody's still getting tested and everybody's still getting options to where they can get the treatment. There's actually a bunch of scholarships that most of these places will actually give you to get the treatment now, which is really, really cool to see. Where do you, I know you said you've been teaching and everything else. What have you been up to the last couple of years, man? I know you've been just all over the place. You were just telling me about how you got your house fixed, so.
As I said, I've had a home in Prescott as a weekend home for a number of years, and I just come up here weekends with my family. And I retired. It'll be 5 years. It'll be 5 years now. It was really hard to retire because I loved what I did, and I was very, very busy. But I've been a doctor for 51 years, so yeah. I didn't want to work till the day I die. But I still teach at Creighton. I teach the second year medical school class every year on substance use disorders, and I give them a 2-hour lecture on all the different classes of drugs that are addictive and what medicines that we have that's helpful in recovery, and what organizations they could hook up with as a support. Last summer with Creighton, I went to the Dominican Republic for 2 weeks, and we saw indigent rural residents there. And I had 5 medical students, and it was fun. But I live kind of in the mountains, and I just redid my house. I have 5 acres, so I do a lot of work around. I'm more of a nature guy now than anything else, but it's nice. And I'm very close to my family. I have 2 grown children, and I spend quality time with them.
I noticed that you traded in the Porsche and got a nice Bronco, man.
The
That's
reason I got a
cool.
Bronco is because I've been stuck in every car that I've owned in Prescott unless you have a
Yeah,
good traction and big
I
wheels.
love that Bronco. That Bronco's cool, man. What about we were talking about it when you first started in the detox, and I some of the stuff that's happened since then compared to where we're at now. Like it's been such a big jump. I mean, it's so scary, isn't it? The way we were, so I'll tell you yesterday, we were down in the valley yesterday and we were doing a homeless, we were offering scholarships to a couple homeless people. So we went down to a place in the valley. It's off of like 27th Avenue, and there's a stretch from I think Northern to Indian School in Phoenix, and they call it the Blade, right? And it's where it's just like the homeless shelters line up now. It used to be downtown where they had them. Now they bring them to like now there's a big chunk that's right there, and we went through neighborhood after neighborhood or park after park, offering people help and passing out waters and trying to talk with them about, giving out business cards. We had a couple scholarships. We knew a couple other people that were willing to scholarship. A couple other treatment centers showed up to help, just trying to make an impact. The things I kept running into over and over again were two drugs that they were on, two drugs, and one of them's making a huge comeback right now on the streets, and that's methamphetamines. And then number two was fentanyl. Or no, it was number one's fentanyl is what I kept hearing. Oh, I'm on the fetty, I'm on the fetty. I can't get off, And number two was I'm on the meth. And I haven't slept in a week. I haven't had a meal. What's your experience with meth? Did you see a bunch of that, or?
Meth has always been around, and so is cocaine, but cocaine's price hasn't gone. Back in 1980, you'd buy a gram of cocaine for $800.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is now. I mean, it really hasn't gone down. Amphetamine is much cheaper. There's more of it as far as coming across the border, and it's a drug that gives you instant energy initially. So it's frequently abused with alcohol or opiates. When you're on meth, you could drink a lot more, you could drug a lot more, but it also gets you bottomed out a lot quicker.
What does it do to the body? Have you?
You know, it floods the body with neurotransmitters like norepinephrine, epinephrine, dopamine, and you get a lot of energy. You get euphoric, and a lot of times, chronically, you start getting paranoid. People
Mhm.
will have a gun in their house, or have a gun all the time, thinking people are after them when they're not.
The
It
psychosis they
makes
go
you
into, yeah.
it makes you crazy, and so it bottoms you out a lot quicker. Another one is marijuana. When I was in college, I smoked marijuana, and it was a 1 to 3%
Hmm.
concentration. And I graduated college in '71, so this is a long time ago. Now, they buy wax, and it's 90%,
Yep.
95%. And this is really hurting our adolescent population
100%.
because actually, when kids use marijuana below the age of 16, it does a lot of damage neurologically. And the goal of adolescent psychiatrists is try to convince these kids not to smoke until they're 16. I mean, that's
Yeah.
because developmentally it helps their brain if they don't use between 12 and 16. So it does some permanent damage. And as I said, I was messed up on 2% marijuana. I mean, we used to go to music class and laugh and stuff like that. But I can imagine what 90% does.
Yeah, the marijuana out there right now, it's not even, I mean, the wax, the pens, the whatever. And then I'm watching them keep legalizing it in different states, right? And and people are like, oh, it's not really. marijuana's not really a drug, right? And I'm like, yeah, it is. I've seen people literally ruin their lives and be just as addicted to marijuana today as they are to all these other substances. And not only just ruin their lives, when it's at 90%, that's giving you the effects of a serious. It's not the, like you said, it's not the 1 or 2% like it
Right.
used to be back in the day. This is 90% now. They're cooking it up in a lab, and they're taking it and they're using it in a way to literally destroy families. Not only families, but they're destroying. And this is the way I see it, and they're destroying the individual to the point where it's rough, man. It's not. They're getting paranoid. It used to be you would smoke a little bit of weed and you'd get hungry and you would, and hang out and laugh and everything else. But now it's completely different stuff. I watched a place I was in Colorado where they legalized it, and I went to one of the main factories, and I got a tour of a factory where they extract the marijuana from the THC from the plant to put it into a wax pen. And when they extract it, they were using like all these different chemicals like butane and all this other stuff to extract it from the THC from it, and then everything they did to put it back together. And I'm just thinking to myself, I've seen meth made just the same. You know what I mean? It's like how is this legal now? How are people being able to? And it's went such a high potent that, like you said, 90%.
Yeah.
It's hurting, and then the effects it's having on the kids, which shouldn't be doing it anyways, is it's out of control, man. Right?
Yeah.
And as far as meth goes, I want your see. I like to hear what you got to say when it comes to like the psychologist stuff on it, because what I see when I see somebody on meth is I see, I being in the treatment industry, and meth was my drug of choice. And I remember I was, you know, I would get out of prison, and before I went back to meth, and I was, let's say, 200 pounds, and next thing you know, I'm 125 pounds. My teeth are going bad. My eyes are sucked in. I'm in a paranoid schizophrenic delusion where the police are chasing me, or everybody's I'm seeing shadow people. All of these things that come behind it.
The
That's
thing, the thing about meth and cocaine, actually about all drugs, is when you first start doing it, you get high, and the high, lasts
Mhm.
for a couple hours, and then it goes down. You have a little withdrawal. After a while, the high period, you lose that because your neurotransmitters are all washed out. And I've known people on cocaine and meth who they say I do it just to feel normal. They don't get any high at all, and they barely feel normal. So it's a bad place where when you're in addiction and you don't get high anymore, it's a horrible place to be.
horrible. Uh, what about alcohol? Alcohol, what is it? Alcohol and benzos are the only two that you can die from on a detox. Is that
No, you
no?
could die from any of them.
Any of them?
Yeah.
Those are the two biggest risk ones, though. Or?
Well, in alcohol, 15% of overdoses are with alcohol and another drug.
Uh-huh.
So that's the statistic as far as how many. But if you do alcohol and opiates, you're at a much higher risk to stop breathing.
So, and what have you seen off people? Because I hear all the time, it's alcohol's not a drug; it's legal. You can buy it in any store. I get told that all the time. A lot of people that watch the channel are some of them are churchgoers, some of them they don't understand the addiction. They watch it due to the fact that, or they have a loved one that's out there, or you know what I mean, or they're learning about it as we're teaching it, right? And that's one of the main reasons why I asked you on here, because I want people to understand like alcohol is a drug, and it's one of the hardest ones. Am I wrong? It
10% of the nation have an alcohol use disorder. Out of all those people, only 10% per year get treated. So it's a small percentage of people. And a lot of people come in for treatment when stuff starts happening. Usually, their wives are mad at them, their family's mad at them, their partners are mad at them. They're not holding up their piece of the work. So it's usually the people that are closer to them that notice, yeah, that alcohol is being that it's causing adverse effects on the person.
Yeah.
But a lot of people will get their first DUI, and that'll be a wake-up call as far as getting treatment. And most people who get a DUI will get some treatments just to placate the court. But after a while, it keeps on, bad things keep on happening, and that's addiction.
Yep.
Addiction is when the shit happens.
And it's so hard with alcohol because no matter where you go, right?
Yeah.
You can be in, so I'll share two stories, but one of them is you could be in a store and it's right there. You can be checking out. They have it at the checkout line. So for somebody that's struggled or carries the disease of addiction and they're having to actually go up there and they see the alcohol, it's a trigger right then. It's like, here you go. Another one is this happened to me one time, and we just bought this business, and we were sitting at dinner with the people that were selling it, and it was in Scottsdale, and we're sitting at dinner with my team on the side, and and they come around, and we're like a nice fancy restaurant, Scottsdale. We're going over some stuff, and the guys on the other side knew nothing about me being in recovery, and they come around and they pour champagne for everybody and shots around the table, and the waiter, they ordered it and the waiter delivered it, and they were doing a toast, and it was the toast, and they were like, here you go, and I was like, no, you know what I mean, because it's just so acceptable in society, right?
And it's interesting because in my early recovery, I'd go to a party and there would be some people who were hyper interested in why I'm not drinking. And those people always, most people, if you're a normal person, you don't care if your buddy's drinking or not. But there are a couple people who are like FBI investigators. Why aren't you drinking? And as I said, I've even in my early recovery, I didn't give a shit if people didn't like me because that I'm a recovering person. That's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I was pretty open about that. But those people have a problem.
Yeah, it was an awkward situation when I had to explain to, business deal, everything else, and I had to explain to the other side that, yes, I'm buying your company. Yes, this is where we're at, but I'm not about to drink with you, and I'm an addict,
It's good. It's good for addicts and alcoholics to know people like you and I because we're open about recovery and say I don't drink or drug, and and come have a comfort level, and that it's good for people to see that who are struggling.
Yeah. Well, I like to, and that's why I called the podcast Elite Comeback and everything else. And I believe your story is one of them, right? Because you went through your addiction. You had a career, right? You had a career. Everything was great. You figured like you were going to be a doctor the rest of your life. Nothing was going to change. Am I missing anything? And then it hit you, right? You had two choices. Then you could have went and stayed in your addiction, and you could have said, "Forget this. I'm going to do me." Or you changed your life and you did it for the better. And people got to hear that story. I mean, 51 years as a doctor, dude. I mean, like with struggling with addiction at one time.
I can't get into the neurochemistry of addiction for very long, but this is a difference between an addict and non-addict. Say I go to Colorado with 4 friends and we go to Purgatory, and it's a beautiful day. There was 12 inches of fresh powder, sunshine, beautiful, and we all go skiing, have a great time. I'm going to say, because I'm an addict, I'm going to say, hey, I'd like to do a little coke and let's get some booze. Our dopamine doesn't work as 100% effectively as other people. And some people are born that way. Some people, it gets worse when they do drugs. And the deficiency of dopamine and of dopamine elicitation or the presence of it is kind of a cause of the addiction.
Yep.
Yeah. So biochemically we're a little bit disabled.
Yeah, and then once you told me that years ago, and it's never left me once you told me it because I seen it so well. Then is like we are not. I know tons of addicts that will try to use to get their dopamines kicked in more, and that's it. I believe they're chemically off balance, and I believe that's another reason why we can call it a disease. That's my personal belief. I'm not a doctor or anything else, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I believe I've seen it. I've been in the industry for years and years, and uh, I've seen people sad when they should be happy. I've seen people.
There's a guy who I actually saw him speak in 1986. In 1986, I took an exam. They offered an exam to physicians to be addiction specialists. That was the first time they've ever done that. And the seminar I went to in 1986, there was a guy called George Koop, Koob.
Mm-hmm.
He's a PhD. He's head of the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism. This guy knows more about the neurochemistry of alcoholism than any other person. He's been doing this, for 40 plus years. He has a lot of podcasts and YouTube videos about the neurochemistry of addiction. So if anyone's interested, they could just watch some of those because, as I said, he's really a pioneer and of the science of addiction.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I've used to talk with families and everything else too about it is just they're chemically off or they got to go through their own stuff because I don't know what to say to the mom when she asks me or the wife, why can't my husband just stop? You know what I mean? And I have to explain your husband's an addict. Or your husband is struggling, he's with alcoholism, or your husband is this, or your wife is this, or you know what I mean, and they need this help, and it's explaining to them over and over again. Life isn't going to be the same. You're going to have to live in certain boundaries and rules with them from now on. Once this has been identified, because they will if they're anything like me, I will drag myself through the gutter. And not only will I drag myself through the gutter, I'll drag everybody else around me through the gutter with it. That I read in one of the literatures I read, and it's like one of the anonymous literatures. It says I've reduced myself to living as an animal style, and that's the truth. I will go all the way down. When we were on the streets yesterday with these guys, they've went to living as beneath lower than low. I mean, they're living on the streets. They're okay with not showering. They're okay with not having food on the table every night. They're okay with it was like 115 degrees yesterday down there, and humidity was cooking. We were drinking half the water before we were able to pass it out. It was so hot. But that's the disease alive in them. You know what I mean?
I've met people who are on their deathbed, and one of the first people I met was a guy named Jack in Boston. He was 31. He had end-stage liver disease. Every time he would get a weekend off, he would come back drunk. I said, Jack, you're going to die soon. He says, I love alcohol so much, I don't care.
Yeah.
And I've met a whole slew of people who their addiction is stronger than life.
Yep.
So.
And it's just hard to change that.
It's sad. I mean, it's sad when people give up their life for that high.
Yeah. What's your overall big picture on help and people getting the statistics right now on getting the help? You think there's enough help out there, or do you think that people could be doing more, or
there's a lot of help out there. The thing is, a lot of people don't have reliance. They don't have reliance that it's going to be helpful, so they don't pursue all those things. There was a patient in Prescott. He had over 70 treatments.
Yeah.
Over 70 treatments. I'll never forget that guy. And I mean, that's not the right way to go. I mean,
no,
you don't need 71 treatments, But I've heard that patient expired.
Yeah.
That was, but it's sad. I mean, I spoke to him many times and said, you're going to end up dead if you don't get sober. And he says, yeah, but I'm trying.
So I was in a meeting one time with that guy, and I got up to go use the restroom. And we're talking about the same guy, and I got up to go use the restroom, and I went to go open the door, and it was unlocked. And I walked in, and it only opened so much, right? And it's at a place over here called Safe Harbor, and it only opened so much. And I was like, "What's going on here?" And I pushed it open a little bit more, and he was on the ground, out, pants around his ankle, stuff in front of him, smoking fentanyl in the bathroom of a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. I Narcaned him 6 times. 6 times I Narcaned this guy. CPR, everything until the firefighters got there. They Narcaned him again, and he woke up.
And fentanyl is more resistant than heroin
Yeah,
to Narcan. So
it was a sad. He did pass away, and
I carry Narcan in my car.
so do I. It's mandatory. It is saving lives right now. Narcan is 100%. My best friend, I wish he got out of prison and he was going to get his life together. Everything was going to go great, right? Daughter waiting for him. Things were great, and he met a girl, went to a hotel with some other people, tried fentanyl for the first time, and they didn't have no Narcan or nothing, and he OD'd, and they didn't know what to do, and they left him in the hotel. So.
Years ago, a lot of patients would tell me because people would get arrested if they called the police.
Mm-hmm.
And I've known so many people who just left their buddy, not breathing. When people have a respiratory arrest from heroin or fentanyl, their heart is perfectly fine. They just need oxygen. And if you give them Narcan or wait long enough, they'll start breathing again. But a lot of people would just bolt and said, "I don't want to get arrested," and
Yeah.
let their friend die.
Yeah, so when I was doing CPR on him, right? And I was down there pumping and everything, right? So he was still, because his heart was kicking
Right.
over the fentanyl, he was still 100% catching breath.
Right.
And he came to, and things were great. And they actually took him. They told him, "You're either going to the hospital or you're going to detox, or we're taking you to jail, one or the other right now." So he agreed to go to the hospital and detox, and I think he got another 30 days in another treatment center, and I think he died maybe a couple months later. It was really, really sad, and I was, just one of those situations, man.
And sometimes families get real upset about maintenance. Put someone on Suboxone or Subutex. That could be just a temporary thing. And I tell families he may be on it for 6 months or a year. In 3 years, he may decide to come off, and you could fairly easily come off of that. So it's people need to watch their criticism because Suboxone and Subutex in the days of fentanyl is a life-saving measure.
So I changed my perspective on it when we talked about you helped me change my perspective years ago on it, and I was like, no, we're not going to do that. We don't want that. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. Once they're detoxed, we need to get their head clear. We need to get them working a program, everything else. And what I've learned to do is I've learned to trust the doctors with the degrees that are doing it. Once I trust the doctors that they're going to do it right, because you've seen. I mean, I didn't go to school for this. I don't know.
Right.
You know what I mean? You've been doing this for 51 years.
Right.
You would know better than me on how long this person needs to be on something than me coming to you as an owner of facility or whatever saying, you got to stop this. You know what I mean? And because I don't want the reputation, or I don't want this, or I don't want that. What I've learned though is at that time, since we trust our doctors and everything else, they're saving lives. You have the same mission I do. How do we get this person clean? How do we get them to where they can receive the message of recovery? And how do we get them better in their life?
But when you look at the whole spectrum of doctors, there's only like 20% of physicians who appropriately handle addiction, and even psychiatrists.
Yep.
I only trust maybe 20% of psychiatrists with an addiction patient. And that's why when I worked at Calvary, I chose really addiction savvy psychiatrists because they know what they're doing and they have experience with addiction. So you have to watch what doctor you go to. I mean, you really do, and it's by word of mouth or and sometimes like I think Phoenix Magazine has best doctors of the year. They have an addiction category. So I mean, those are ways to streamline it.
Yeah. Have you heard anything about this new stuff they're doing? I mean, it's not too new, but it's a lot of the psychs are doing it. It's the ketamine.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. Ketamine reduces some of the anxiety. I think it's too new to really tell exactly. The funny thing is, if all drugs were legalized,
Yeah.
only a certain percentage of the population would be addicts. I mean, initially it would go up, but then it would only affect those people who are genetically susceptible to be addicts or alcoholics. In some of the countries like Thailand, even Mexico, it's almost like it's free drugs. I mean, you can go in any drugstore down in Mexico and buy controlled substances. And as I said, the population of addicts is more they're genetically chosen, or if you have bad psychosocial rearing as a kid, those are the people who are going to become addicts. But it's not going to go like crazy like people think.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen some. I mean, when I was in, we were looking at buying this treatment center in Colorado, and I went out there, and that was one of the things that they were switching over a lot of their stuff to. But what they noticed on it was that I was talking to the doctor, and the doctor brought up the one statistic that kind of scared me in the whole situation. I don't know enough about it, so don't take what I'm saying as law or whatever, you know what I mean? But the one statistic that scared me was that they said that the people that they've tried it on and they've done it with, 50% of them have turned around and relapsed off of that. So they come back with a relapse on ketamine. So I'm like, oh, well, you're helping 50%, and an addict, it doesn't matter what it is. An addict will use. Don't get me wrong on that. You know what I mean?
You know, an analogous situation is ADHD. I started people who are good addiction specialists. You'll occasionally see a patient who has ADHD and addiction, and if you treat the ADHD, their addiction will actually be better. But it's risky because you give if you give 100 patients Adderall, you're going to get a significant percentage that are going to start abusing it. But I had private patients that I've had a couple cocaine and amphetamine addicts also who had ADHD, and I followed them for years, and they were sober.
Yeah.
So and then there's a lot of criticism, with the family. If his drug of choice is cocaine, you give him Adderall, they're going to be pissed at you.
Yeah.
So it's a fine balance, but it's published already that if you have significant ADHD, that treatment early in recovery is the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff published. Like a lot of people have their opinions and everything else. Like I said, I leave it up to you guys now to make the best decision. I still want to get everybody involved, and my biggest thing now is once we've detoxed them, once we've gotten them to a point where they're stable and everything else, is how do we build programs for them to help change their lives afterwards, And that's what I like to focus on too, because you let an addict go back out on the streets, no job, no real place to go. What are they going to walk back into? You know what I mean?
Right.
They're going to walk back into what they know best. They're going to break the law. They're going to steal. They're going to do whatever, and they're going to end up using sooner or later. So I think the best is helping change their life. But it takes, what I've learned in this industry over the years is it takes you It takes us, it takes me, it takes all of us, right? To come together as one. The medical side, the addiction side, the trauma side. Or what was it? Psychology Today came out with a thing saying that 90% of addicts have had some kind of trauma done to them, and that's why they use. I believe in that too. You know what I mean? I believe that there's people who are using to numb the feelings. So let's work on that.
Trauma stays imprinted in the brain, and unless you really process it and put it in its place, it keeps on popping up, just like just like your love for heroin. The that those Your brain is like a computer, and there's areas of the brain, and we've already really marked these and documented them, that there's areas of the brain that they don't forget. It doesn't forget.
Right.
And trauma is one of them, and drugs are one of them. Love is another one.
And it pops up,
Yeah.
whenever something's going wrong or whatever, it could be triggered, right?
Yeah.
And that can trigger you back, that if you don't have the right tools in your life to counter it, you're going to probably end up using it again.
I've taken care of people who had everything going in life. They were aesthetically, good-looking people, very smart. They had a good relationship with other people, and they ended up dead because of the drugs. I mean, it's so sad to see those people.
Yeah.
But I've taken care of people that had one foot in the grave, and they did well, and they're sober for years.
Yeah.
So,
But the last thing is that it doesn't matter who you are. Addiction, well, like you were a doctor.
yeah.
I was a kid out of Sunny Slope. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter who you are. I think we can all relate to that we've struggled with it at one time. You know what I mean? And that it doesn't matter if you're black. It doesn't matter if you're white. It doesn't matter if you come from a good family, poor family. It doesn't matter if you're whatever, right?
Yeah.
The disease can get you, or the addiction can get you. It's how do we get that person help, and how do we identify with it? What you've done for years is you've been able to just, you've went through the full cycle, but what I respect about you the most is, 15,000 people, over 15,000 people, you've walked through
Right.
the medical part of it, because I'll tell you what, if 90% of the clients that we told them that they were going to have to detox without a detox, they wouldn't be in treatment right now. You know what I mean? They have to go, like they're not going to take that. We're not going to walk through that pain and that suffering without guidance and help from the doctors to get us there.
I was always a strong advocate for patients, and I don't believe that them suffering a lot in detox does anything. So I made these people very comfortable.
Yeah.
And there's a line. I mean, what I think is comfortable, what they think is comfortable, may be different. But they knew that I treated them with empathy and care. And sometimes I get a patient who would be emphasizing how much he uses, how much trouble he's been, and just he'd give me the longest sobbing story. And at the end of the thing, I said, the difference between me and you? I like to get high more than you do. And it'd blow them away. They wouldn't know what to say. They just...
That's crazy. That's awesome, but crazy.
I used to have fun with the patients.
Yeah, I know you told me at the beginning you miss it. You miss it a lot.
I miss it so much.
Well, we miss you too, man. Another cool thing about Dr. K. Allen is I went through some medical stuff, and with I found out I had a heart issue, and I was gonna have to have open heart surgery, and you were the doc at the time, and I was sitting down talking with him, and he was like, hold on real quick, and you jumped down and you sent me a couple really good heart doctors that were able to step into my life at that time and walk me through it, and that was one of the coolest things, because they were there from the doctor I had at the time up here. He told me, I went and seen a surgeon and another doctor, and he told me right away, he was like, we're going to do open heart surgery right now. And my wife was 6 months pregnant. I was like almost 7 months. I was like, dude, he was like, we got to do it within the next month to 2 months. So like right now, like we're gonna get your stuff together. And I was like, my wife can't take care of me and a newborn. So you gave me some contacts and everything else, and I went down and talked with them, and then I got a second opinion, then I got a third opinion, and I ended up going another 4 years without having to have open heart.
You know, I almost think there was a little divine intervention
Yeah,
because, I mean, you had a serious problem, and I thought it was premature for them to go right and operate at this point. You showed me the scans and
yeah.
stuff like that. So you know, I almost think it was divine intervention that you went to the right person and you got the right surgeon and everything
That was
smooth as silk.
smooth as silk. Everything was done. I really, really appreciate that, man, because I was in a spot, dude. I was like, kind of, what do I do? What do I do? You know,
Yeah.
and I'm praying and I'm trusting God and everything else. And then Brendan said, "Oh, Alan wants to talk to you. Talk to Alan about it." And I went and we sat down, and it changed my perspective. So that's how you helped me in my life, you know. Real quick before we go, anything you want to tell the guys, or anything you want to tell them?
No, I mean, this is alcoholism is and drug addiction's a widespread disease, and everyone sees it. So I mean, everyone's affected by it, but it's treatable. There's a lot of avenues for help, and I mean, there's worse things. I mean, there's worse things that I could have than addiction. So your life can still go on and be fruitful. You know, just don't give up.
Don't give up.
Yep.
All right, we'll leave it with that. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.